Hey everybody, welcome back. So, as promised to the astronomy people, and to make sure that my channel stays about astronomy, I've got an astronomy video for you. So these are some pictures I took over the past month. Just a quick recap from the last video introducing the V2. Had a really major storm that came through a little over a month ago, back here in June. Took down some trees in the side of the house here, and one in the front. A lot of damage, roof damage, just terrible things. And then we actually got hit again just a couple of weeks ago here in late July. Really bad storm here in Forsyth County, and just laid trees everywhere. A lot of houses had some damage. So luckily I didn't get hit a second time. They literally had just finished putting the roof on and gotten all the trees cleaned up. So without further ado, here is some astronomy for you and what I've got going on. So first, though, let me show you what I've got again, because this is just awesome. I mean, you wouldn't think that it would be a blessing that some trees come down and hit the house, but A, thank God for insurance, and two, I got southern views. Here's where I typically set up the tripod and telescope. So I've got nice clear view up here to the north. Swing over to the east, nice and clear. And now I have got the south wide open. So there were two 60-foot Leland cypresses standing there at one time. Of course, the house is still there, but you know. So let's kick it off. So the first object we got, now that we can see to the south, was M8 and the Trifid. So just looking across here in our handy dandy fancy stellarium, we can see where it's at. So let's just go up here to M8, which is the Lagoon, Messier number 8. And when we get into it, you've got M21, which is the Trifid, and then of course you've got M8, which is the Lagoon. So Lagoon is an emission nebula, and it's roughly about 110 by 50 light years in size, so fairly big. Main composite on it is hydrogen. It's about 4,000 light years away. So right now, here in late July, early August, it's coming up about 6:17, and it will set a little before 4 a.m. And the best position is going to be around 11 o'clock, when it's basically straight up in the sky. Now, it is a little bit low on the south horizon, but it is certainly easily accessible. The telescope is an ASCAR 65 PHQ, which has 416 millimeters of focal length, along with an ASI Air and a 2-inch filter wheel, along with the ASI 2600 mm. And here's the end result. So I only shot this in RGB filters. I did not do illuminance on these, so just red, green, and blue 2-inch filters by ZWO, by the way. These are not betas or anything high and expensive. These are from ZWO, and honestly, I think they did a really good job. So each filter was shot 120 seconds each, and there were 40 subs per channel. So total of about 4 hours, and was able to get it all in one night. So the next object I went after M8 here was I went up to NGC6683. Now this is an open cluster. It is located here in the constellation Scutum, I believe is how you pronounce that. I'm not 100% sure. But the reason I went after this object, and again, it's just an open cluster, but the reason why I went for it is because it's in a beautiful region of just a star field. It's just a massive star field from one of the tendrils here of the Milky Way, and it is just beautiful. And honestly, I think they're underrated, but they're also kind of hard to capture when you're shooting, you know, other than like say super wide field. You're not really getting them all the size and the grandeur of them, but in a 65 PHQ, they actually get a fairly good spacing without having to do like a large mosaic. So here you go. Again, shot with RGB, no luminance filter on this. So the lights, there were 30 subs on each filter at 300 seconds per sub. So right about 7.5 hours total time. One of the things I've really kind of learned here more recently in the past few years when not using a one-shot color camera is that you can shoot beautiful objects in the sky with just RGB rather than also doing luminance frames. Now obviously luminance frames come in handy when you're doing like a lot of nebulosity. You would probably want to use one there, but you can really get some spectacular photos by just doing RGB filters when you're shooting with a mono camera. So you're kind of saving that extra time that you would normally use for luminance just by simply doing RGB. So yeah, so there was some southern targets I was able to get now that the trees are gone. And I also did get another object. Now it's not in the south, so this isn't really a south video, I don't think, but I did get M51, which I did shoot RGB. Now, as I just mentioned, you don't always have to use luminance filters when shooting mono. You know, obviously they can, be used when and where, but for the most part, if you just shoot RGB, it's kind of the same thing as if you were shooting a one-shot color. The luminance can obviously add a lot more detail because the mono camera is a lot more sensitive, but not always necessary. And if you looked at the Lagoon, if you blew up on it, you can obviously see there's a ton of detail there, even though I just shot RGB. Now, I'm not against going multiple nights to do an image. I've done it quite a few times. But if you're kind of caught on time, you may not have several nights in a row, maybe just 2 nights, you can get by with RGB. It just depends on your own taste of whether or not you want to use it or not. So real quick, let's just take a look at M51. Now, I actually shot M51 back here in May, so a couple of months ago. It was a lot better position than what it is right now. But yeah, I don't recall if I ever did a video on shooting the Whirlpool or not. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. If not, you get to see it again. So M51, SCF51 is the Whirlpool Galaxy, and it is in Ursa Major. So again, probably the bad time of the year to kick it right now because it's coming up at like 9:18 in the morning and it's setting around 3:45 in the following morning. So there's still time to grab it, but you're probably not going to do a full night on it unless you got some really good clear views to the west side. So this was also shot in RGB. No luminance filters found, so hey, let's take a look at it. So M51, the Whirlpool in all its glory. Again, shot RGB, red, green, blue filters. Each of them was 60 subs per filter at 120 seconds each. So 6 hours worth of data, so I was able to get it all in one night. And I'll tell you what, let's blow this up real quick. So yeah, blown up, there you go. So yeah, RGB filters, no luminance. And honestly, I'm probably more impressed with the fact that these are from ZWO filters. They actually seem to make a fairly quality filter for the price point, and you're not spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on more brand name type of filters. So yeah, I can't complain. So for 6 hours worth of data captured in one evening, fairly nice looking object. So I'm proud of it. It may not win an APOD or anything, but who cares? I like what I got.